All right, I'm gonna say some mean things. So, yeah, if you're feeling triggered, you should probably just stop listening. And yeah, I'll just say, I'll just say what I need to say. I mean, this is just completely ridiculous. Um, I mean, and honestly, in terms of extinction, I am making the Stalin argument. I've just gotten to that point. I think we should just shut down the borders. The poor should just starve to death and revolt. Uh, yeah, just because the boomer generation, they multiplied after World War II. Okay, they multiplied the global population four times its fucking rate. And ever since World War II, ever since the atomic bomb, DDT, pesticides, okay, uh, you know, industrialized agriculture, industrialized animal products. Ever since that point, we have quadrupled our global population, and yet the kids of these baby boomers are still so deluded to the actual fact that basically they're just wasting our time. They're wasting our money. So I mean, I'm just implying right to die for everyone. Um, And yeah, these little sadomasochistic baby boomers, if you're over 60 years old, I'm sorry, but you're wasting our time. You don't realize that. You're living in the past. You're living in some other dimension. You can't handle the stimulation, whatever it is. And it just makes your brain jello. You get older and older. You don't admit that you're wasting our time. You don't admit that you're wasting our words. You don't admit that you're doing any of that stuff. You don't admit that you're you're colluding with the enemy forces, all of the corporations, and that's all you're doing, and that's all this little stupid fucking game is. And the best thing that could happen to planet Earth is if we lost all of our fucking resources, tonight, and tomorrow we all woke up in a world where we had to actually work together to be able to synthesize some sort of real heuristic fucking planning. But we don't do that. We all work in copies of each other, and we all live in this metaverse and try to incorporate some sort of fucking idea, and we have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. And younger people know this, if they're not fucking deluded and having kids. They fucking know this. And I'm just saying, it's just right to die. It's just stop wasting our fucking time, and you should admit to that fucking shit at least. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, the HAL 300 or the HAL 3 or the HAL 3000, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there is no heroism is basically just emotions, and emotions are triggered by neurotic synthesis, maybe. Okay, I say maybe neurotic synthesis, maybe just because I've been listening to evolution too much. Um, you just have to be able to understand this neuroticism that is implementing all this, Darwinian attitude towards whatever breeding and all this stuff. I mean, diversity is not what our species needs in order to survive. It's so stupid. Just because a species, in order for it to fucking survive, it has to migrate. I mean, it depletes Earth of its resources. I mean, what do you want to say? I mean, there's no fucking Garden of Eden, okay? If you believe in a fucking Garden of Eden, then go read the fucking Bible. Stop reading the fucking book of evolution. There's obviously a migration proponent, and if you want to, to that extent, if you want to deny psychology, then accept your fucking accept your fucking quantum computers, okay? Because your fucking quantum computers are never going to exist. Okay, you can only realistically make weapons of war, and they don't even how do they even have weapons of war? I mean, it's just sensing something. Like you just have a sensor. You pick up I guess gamma rays. You pick up gamma rays or radioactive decay and gamma rays, and just use the infrared. And then whenever you see gamma rays, you just fire bullets into that. I mean, that's the most they can do. They can only, they can only play. I mean, they can only play chess. They can't play, philosophy, and they can't play all that stuff. They can only play calculators. They can only play things like that. I mean, they can't play actual human sort of like metaphysician boundaries and all that stuff. So they can't fucking do all that stuff. And everybody knows that oil is going out the fucking oil is going into the gutter, and yeah, people got to make money. Okay, so fucking what? Stop acting like it's not. Stop acting like you're not shopping for it, because we're all just in the end fucking shopping for it. So yeah, I mean, if and if you implement some sort of Stalin system, if you implement some sort of Stalin system to propel some sort of, I mean, this might not happen forever, just because, I mean, it might happen in some timeline, like we might have some Great Depression in 2030, like we did in 1930. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that a lot of people are wasting a lot of people's time, and we're just I mean, especially on the internet. I mean, we have to be able to understand that electricity is completely destroying our species. I mean, it just is. I mean, we incorporate relationships with people we don't know from around the world. It's this global fucking democracy or communism. I mean, it's just so weak. Monarchy doesn't mean anything. None of the governments really mean anything. The only thing that means anything is there's some people who have a lot of money who are taking advantage of who are taking advantage of industrial whatever industrial industrial factories. So yeah, and that's the industry, and it's stupid, and it is stupid to have these fucking witchcraft telescopes and microscopes to be able to try to derive like there's some sort of fucking quark reality, and the quark reality, um the math can just lead to some fucking wormhole. I mean, obviously there's such an easy distinction by saying if I throw a rock, it's going to have force and it's going to work and it's going to go like a certain distance, compared to, oh well, there's energy, there's a different sort of energy if I look into the telescope without looking into the telescope. I mean, that's so fucking obvious, and yet people don't fucking get it. And then they want to have these, like, they say that these constants. I mean, fucking evolution is not just because, I mean, evolution is not a constant, for fucking people. It's a constant for human beings, okay? It's a constant for the understanding that human beings are going to be reckless fucking assholes no matter what. But people can change that. I mean, people can change that. So that's the point of this misanthropic, fucking stupid physical reality and all this fucking contrary shit, like some deontological fucking bullshit, pretty much. I mean, like, and as if that's not fucking understandable. If you have deontology that incorporates an order in the natural world, I mean, it's obvious. All this physical reality stuff. Yeah, turn the light switch on, it goes through. Turn the light switch off, and it blocks the electricity. I mean, so there's like really great information out there and all that, but the fact that people, but I'm just saying, building a nervous system from fucking particles. Okay, you're trying to use particles to build a fucking nervous system. This is how they're supposed to break evolution. This is how they're supposed to make Space Odyssey 2001, heuristic algorithmic computer 3000, which is basically a feeling machine. And you can't be a fucking feeling machine, okay? All you are is a fucking Stalinist. At the end of the fucking day, you're just a Stalinist. And yeah, you like General Stalin, and you want to, live in his land of starvation and revolution and euthanization or whatever it is. And that's what you promote, and that's what you get. I mean, it's not that fucking difficult to understand. I mean, so it's not really the physics conversation right now. I mean, really, if they want to just keep playing these fucking games with space science or cosmology, it's really interesting. But yeah, their topology argument, basically destroys energy. Topology gives you some infinite chain of events that can happen in one reality, uh, if not uh, if not your other reality. I mean, it gives you it gives you this infinite reality that you didn't already acquire. So you didn't acquire a taste for one reality that has infinite possibilities, and you can only go in the other direction. And it's just a complete. It's basically just a law of determinism. Now, why would that be a fair law of fucking determinism? Especially since it only incorporates you. I mean, it's on people to fucking do things, but it's on ideas to be able to change those people. It's not on fucking people to change people. It's not on me, like, to pull a trigger on a criminal. It's on me to be able to further understand better ideas implement to implement anti-war things like that. I mean, so this is so disgusting. So disgusting. I mean, in homosexuality, genetics versus nurture. I mean, there's just a complete distortion of nurture is obviously psychology, and if you only deal with nature, deal with your fucking mother nature. I don't care. She's gonna get lit on fucking fire eventually, and you will have never of grasped human evolution. I mean, human evolution and the understanding that modern man is a lot smarter uh, than he was yesterday, and they understand this critical fact, and they see that the what is happening is worsening. Okay, it's getting worse, and it's getting worse, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay, so that's not an intellectual attack or a psychic attack on anybody who is over 60 or anybody that is suffering from suicidality. But I mean, this is just the truth, and the bottom line is that people are not going to grasp it, and they're just gonna whatever. The fuck is a sex paradox? I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Whatever, fuck that guy. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything, like like the parabola and all that stuff. Like, I mean, even if you consider Minkowski space, it's really just this, these two cones and the hyperboloid and the cross section energy equation, like to infinity, and how these things work. But yeah, I mean, it's not all that applicable on Earth. It's not all that systematic in understanding. But like I said. Um, yeah, robots can do calculators. They can't do emotions, and they can't be judged for their efforts and all that stuff. I'm just saying, you're gonna have to create a nervous system. Okay, you're gonna have to create a nervous system with a thinking brain. You can't give it a thinking brain with just metal. You have to actually allow the robot to be able to feel pain if it's going to inflict pain. Okay, that's the whole point of this emotional argument or this hereticism. This algorithmic computer idea just doesn't work without it. It doesn't work with emotions because you have to be able to feel it to be able to like understand like a pain tolerance. Okay, so anyway, um, yeah, and all the denial of like Greek philosophy or something like how they were not sadomasochists, and I mean, as bad as Christianity seems to have been, I mean, like just sadomasochism everywhere, or sadism and masochism, and it's just so fucking ugly. All right. Yeah. I mean, I was just trying to talk about topology. I saw topology. I saw Oh yeah, nucleosynthesis, like nucleosynthesis, like nuclear biogenesis or something, like as if nuclear biogenesis was actually possible. This can only be metaphor. This can only be made out of something that is so obviously positive and negative and things like that. And then you have all of your your electrons, and yeah, the idea is that certain charges would have a certain geometry, and then those certain geometries would eventually form a certain pattern, and that would create an atom. That would create a hydrogen atom, because a hydrogen atom only has one electron. A helium atom has two electrons. A lithium atom has three electrons, and so forth and so on. And so you start, you know, learning about you start learning about the transition of particles in that sense, because like there is, you know, molecular biology today, but in the sense that you could recreate nuclear biogenesis or recreate nuclear synthesis. That's the problem. That's what I have a problem with, obviously, because they're not going to be able to create quantum computers. Quantum computers, they can't have a quantillion, you know, experiment like a quantillion experiments that lead to something that will actually create or like supersede the type of science that we have today. So again, this topology, it just surpasses something that you have a circular. So if you have a topological thought or something, like that'll be like a transition or a conversion into a new idea of metaphysics, basically. And metaphysics, I mean, it really is metaphysics. It's not actual physics. I mean, they do the math and everything, but they're not really getting to any exact point. Um, they only distinguish that there is a like a, almost a like an infinite amount of math, like especially in Maxwell's math, to be able to understand. I mean, not only just Maxwell's, but Noether's, Emmy Noether's math, her math, and Maxwell's math combined. You have like some, you know, all these just Einstein math equations that don't really lead, they don't really transition, they don't really tell you anything other than that there are nominal boundaries. There are nominal boundaries within basically a super circle, and a super circle would just be something that is actually below the certainty of topology, because topology is not possible without saying, well, we'll do all these equations here, we'll do all these equations here, and the transformation of those equations will have some certainty of how far and what the speed the actual red shift or the blue shift actually is. The red shift is always the excuse me. The red shift is always the particle or the elemental bits that create stars or galaxies, or stars or solar systems or galaxies, and the blue bits are always compressed bits. Compressed. I mean, the unfortunate part about it is that they do create the vacuum. They do create the vacuum, and the vacuum is supposed to be free. It's supposed to be free of these other bits. I mean, it's supposed to just have hydrogen, things like that. Like things can catch on fire really easily if you're in outer space, because they'll be if you're in zero gravity space and you light a lighter. Okay, you have like a cigarette lighter and you light it. Then all of that, the problem is that all of that like liquid or propane or whatever it is you're lighting on fire, all of that will get sucked into the vacuum. So essentially, it'll create an explosion, and then not only is it an explosion, but the hydrogen, helium, and all the products to be able to create all the matter to be able to create the fire, is able to actually stay like within zero gravity. Now, if it was in like a super vacuum, like space would be a super vacuum. If you're in a spaceship, you could imagine that it would just be zero gravity. So zero gravity would have a bit of a vacuum. Again, because it doesn't, depending on how strong the vacuum actually is, it just means whether or not you can breathe. Like in zero gravity, you'd be able to still breathe, but in outer space, you're not going to be able to breathe because it's going to be deprived of oxygen. But in zero gravity, you'd still have oxygen. It's just that the molecular structures will obviously be more spread out in space because the vacuum is much stronger, and that fire would just extinguish almost like immediately. Like it wouldn't spread. It can only carry. It can only do. It's only good for the work that it can carry. Okay, so it's going to have force and it's going to have distance. But if it gets sucked into the super vacuum, then the amount of work obviously that it has doesn't change, but it can't be as spread out over as much distance. So I mean, because it has to be theoretical, right? I mean, and that's just a theoretical way of looking at it. So it can spread out easily in zero gravity, but not in the space vacuum. Um, it's just like it is just like the it is just like the Einstein experiment. It's really sad. They can't do anything. Um, all they got out of the Einstein experiment pretty much was that, well, there's different angles. I mean, there's angles around the sun. It's just the same exact. It's just an exact proportion to the kinetic energy that is in uh, wave particle duality of Young, and um, those solar flares that you can see around the moon are just the exact. We can proportionalize those through the Young experiment, and kinetic energy, of course. I mean, I don't even understand how the idea would be. I mean, because then they don't even talk about gravitation. I mean, well, they'll talk about gravitational lensing, and that they'll say that the vector is over the moon. Okay, the vector is over the moon, and then they want to proportionalize how deep that the solar sun is actually covered, like within the opposite vector. So there's the Earth, the moon, and the sun, and the Earth and the moon have the vectors in this gravitational lensing idea, and essentially your moon would replace the Einstein ring, and you're just saying, well, what are those particles doing? But it's talking about gravitational lensing. But that's not even gravitational lensing. Okay, that's E equals mc squared. Gravitational lensing doesn't use the moon. Okay, so the vector is supposed to be over the gravitational lensing uses Einstein's rings. Gravitational lensing uses Einstein's rings. It does not uses Einstein's ring, I should say, because it is only one ring. The moon, it does not use the moon. E equals mc squared uses the moon, and that's so obvious. But I'm just saying, this is the corruption of physics. All right. I mean, there's not going to be any there's not going to be any, what do you call it? HAL 3000, that supersedes any of the robots that we have today. Will easily run out of electricity. will easily be will easily all be in some Tesla converted way of using electricity. We'll be using electricity with copper and magnets and doing all this stuff. We won't have factory grade oil distributors or anything like that. I mean that's just the future. The future is bleak compared to what we have now because of oil, and we're going to run out of fossil fuels. Of course, we don't know when and all that stuff, but it's just so obvious. And at best, all they can do is have a Skynet type Terminator thing, where yes, like they see infrared, and they have like a beta test. They have like a beta tester, just some beta tester robot that says shoot anything, see infrared, shoot anything that basically turns red, because obviously infrared meaning that they'll see heat. I mean, they could even do an X-ray or just like shoot people with X-rays, but that would waste too much energy. But I mean, they have those around the Pentagon and stuff. The Pentagon has um, they have guns that pop out of the ground, and those guns, like they have machine guns that pop out of the ground and stuff. At least to my knowledge. So yeah, it's really bad. It is really bad, and yeah, it's the fact that they run some really insane stuff with these transformers. I mean, they always call them transformers, and all they're talking about is how much energy do we get out of the excuse me, how much energy do we get out of the transformer? Okay, all of the energy is outside of the transformer, and when we open the door, how much energy do we get that is able to circulate the transformer? The energy has to. The problem is that the energy actually penetrates the entire circulator. So when you close the door, the energy basically evaporates. Now we're essentially talking about electromagnetic energy, okay? Because even though it's not really like, it can't be really proven through, well, I guess they're trying to prove it quantum mechanically, but it's not considered quantum mechanics. It's not considered magnetism. It's just electromagnetism. So it's sort of in between, but of course it's unproven. Like, because what are you saying really, other than that it just is a complete, it's just energy. We'll just call it energy for the sake of this conversation. If you open the transformer and you if you open the transformer, you the energy gets in. I mean, this is on a two-dimensional plane, so I might be wrong about this too. So I don't even know. I don't even know how they're really doing the transformer thing actually, and I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Like they're talking about the unlimited energy thing, where if you open and you get like a rotation around, it's like a if you get a rotation around the circular track, then that's a certain amount of energy. But I'm pretty sure it's the same colossal experiment that Veritasium is doing. Not that anybody is watching this video, but yeah. So that, I mean, that's pretty colossal mistake by them, because they're saying they're opening the energy when they open the door to the energy, that the energy runs through basically the antenna, but it's not the antenna that it's actually running through. It's running through the entire experiment, and when they close this, so it is basically all it is a alternated current that is running off of essentially free energy. So if they don't use a battery, they don't get any energy, or you get energy like, never, barely ever. But if you're using lithium batteries, then yeah, it's a direct energy current. You just have to unplug the battery. So that's scary. That's insanely scary bad. Because yeah, if you're using free energy and you're trying to get free energy just from magnetism and electricity or fire or things like that. I mean, those are the energy forms of the future. Then yeah, you're essentially using. If you don't have a conductor, okay, if you don't have a conductor, you're essentially gathering free energy, but that will give you absolutely no energy. Like, trying to plug copper wire into the sand or something and charge your phone. I mean, it's just crazy.